After my car accident, my son and his wife coldly declared, right from my hospital bed, "We won't take care of you. Our vacation is more important." I just smiled, hired a professional caregiver, and the same day I stopped the $6,000 monthly payments they'd been receiving for years. A few hours later, my phone exploded. 87 missed calls from them. They had no idea the real consequences were only beginning. Before continuing, subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is in your region right now. My name is Ruben Curtis. I'm 67 years old and I live in Phoenix, Arizona. Spent 40 years building a chain of auto repair shops from nothing. Sold them 3 years ago for $2,100,000. Now I restore classic cars in my garage. Always believed that family meant everything. Turns out I was catastrophically wrong about that. My son James wasn't always the man he is today. I remember when he was 7, running to meet me every evening when I came home from the shop, grease still under my fingernails. He'd ask me about every car I'd fixed that day, eyes wide with genuine interest. We'd sit in the garage together on weekends, and I'd teach him how an engine breathes, how every part has its purpose. He was curious, kind, eager to learn. That changed 3 years ago when he met Jennifer. Don't get me wrong, she's beautiful. Blonde hair always perfectly styled, designer clothes, smile that could sell ice to someone living in Alaska. But underneath that polished exterior, there's something calculating, cold. I saw it the first time James brought her to Sunday dinner. The way her eyes swept over my modest apartment, the slight downturn of her lips when she realized I'd downsized from the house. The way she steered every conversation toward money, properties, investments. James works as a sales manager at an auto dealership, pulls in $4,200 a month, decent salary. But Jennifer came from nothing, and now she wants everything. Within 6 months of their marriage, they started hinting. The apartment they were renting was too small. Wouldn't it be wonderful to raise a family in a real house? Didn't I have that 4-bedroom place in the Arcadia neighborhood? I made my first mistake then. I signed the house over to James. $680,000 worth of real estate, just handed it to him. Told myself I was helping my son get established, giving him the foundation I never had at his age. I moved into a 2-bedroom apartment in Paradise Valley. Smaller, quieter, but it suited me fine. Had room for my tools and my current project, a 1967 Mustang that needed everything. That wasn't enough, apparently. 6 months after they moved in, James called. They were struggling with expenses, he said. The house had costs he hadn't anticipated. Could I help out, just temporarily? I started sending them $6,000 every month. Told myself it was temporary. That was 3 years ago. The payments never stopped. Jennifer quit her job as a receptionist 2 months after the money started flowing. No point working when father-in-law was covering everything, right? She joined a yoga studio, started having bi-weekly spa appointments, filled the house with furniture that cost more than my first car. James said nothing, just accepted it all like he'd won some kind of lottery. I saw my granddaughter Lindsay more than I saw her parents. She'd call me every week, want to come over and help with the Mustang. Sweet kid, 12 years old, smart as a whip. She'd hand me tools and ask questions about the restoration process, reminding me so much of her father at that age. Through her, I heard about the expensive vacations, the new SUV I'd bought them last year for $45,000, the designer handbags Jennifer collected like trophies. But they were family. And family helps each other, right? The accident happened on a Tuesday morning. I was driving to the parts store, thinking about the carburetor rebuild waiting in my garage. The light was green. I saw the other truck too late, a blur of metal and screeching tires, a drunk driver running a red light at 40 miles per hour. My car spun 3 times before slamming into a light pole. I woke up in Banner Good Samaritan Medical Center with pain radiating through my entire right side. 3 broken ribs, concussion, severely damaged left leg. The doctor said I was lucky to be alive. Didn't feel particularly lucky lying there, every breath sending knives through my chest. I called James from the hospital bed, fingers shaking as I dialed. Voice barely above a whisper because talking hurt. Told him what happened, where I was. Asked if he could come. "I'm at the gym, Dad. Can it wait an hour?" 4 hours later, he finally showed up. Jennifer was with him, yoga pants and a tank top, like they'd been interrupted during some casual afternoon activity. No flowers, no concern in their eyes. James stood at the foot of the bed, hands in his pockets, looking uncomfortable. Jennifer stayed near the door, checking her phone every 30 seconds. "How are you feeling?" James asked. The question automatic, empty. "Like I was hit by a truck," I said, because I was hit by a truck. Jennifer looked up from her phone, irritation crossing her face like I'd inconvenienced her. "Well, the important thing is you're okay. They're taking care of you here." "Doctor says I'll need help for a few weeks," I said, watching their faces. "Recovery, physical therapy, getting around. I was hoping—" "Reuben," Jennifer cut me off, her voice sharp and cold. "We can't take care of you. We're leaving for Hawaii in a week. Everything's already paid for. The resort, the excursions, all of it. We've been planning this for months." I stared at her. "I was in a car accident." "We understand that," she said, crossing her arms. "But our vacation can't be more important than your recovery. You'll be fine here. They have nurses, professionals. That's what they're for." I looked at James, waiting for him to say something. Anything. Tell his wife that his father, lying in a hospital bed, took priority over cocktails on a beach. He met my eyes for half a second, then looked away. "Jennifer's right, Dad. We can't cancel now, but you're in good hands here." The room felt colder suddenly, despite the warm Arizona sun streaming through the window. I looked at these two people, my son and his wife, and saw them clearly for the first time. Not family. Not the people I'd sacrificed for, supported, believed in. Just two strangers who saw me as nothing more than a monthly deposit. Jennifer was already heading toward the door. "We should go. We still need to pack. Feel better, Reuben." James hesitated, guilt flickering across his face for a moment. Then he followed his wife out, leaving me alone in that sterile room with the steady beep of monitors and the hollow ache of betrayal settling somewhere deeper than my broken ribs. I lay there for a long time after they left, staring at the ceiling tiles. Every breath hurt. Every movement sent pain shooting through my side, and I thought about $6,000 a month for 3 years, about a house I'd given away, about a car I'd bought them, about all the years I'd spent working my fingers to the bone, building something, believing that family meant sacrifice and loyalty. They couldn't spare 1 week, not 1 week to help the man who'd given them everything. Something shifted in me then, lying in that hospital bed. Something cold and clear and absolutely certain. The hospital nights were the worst. Pain medication turned my thoughts fuzzy, but memories came through sharp and clear, like watching old movies I couldn't turn off. I remembered James at 16 coming to me in tears because he'd wrecked my truck. Not totaled it, just a dented fender from backing into a pole. He'd been terrified. I'd be furious. I'd hugged him, told him trucks were replaceable. Sons weren't. We'd fixed it together in the garage, spent a whole Saturday with tools and primer and paint, turning a mistake into a lesson about responsibility and forgiveness. When did that kid disappear? When did my son become someone who could look at his injured father and choose a vacation? I thought about the house. 3 years ago, Jennifer had cooked dinner for me, a whole elaborate spread, smiled warmly and said how grateful they were, how they'd take such good care of the place. James had gripped my hand, eyes sincere, promised he'd make me proud. I'd felt good driving away that night, felt like I'd done the right thing as a father. The memory tasted bitter now. A nurse came in to check my vitals the next morning. Kind woman, probably in her 50s. Gentle hands. She saw me staring at my phone, at the screen showing 17 missed calls from James, 12 from Jennifer. "Family trouble?" she asked softly. I showed her the call log, told her they'd left me here to go to Hawaii, watched her expression shift from sympathy to quiet disgust. "You have people who can help you when you get out?" That question settled something in me. No, I didn't have people. I had a son who'd chosen pineapple drinks over his father's broken bones. I had a daughter-in-law who saw me as an ATM with a pulse. But I had something else too. I had money. I had clarity. And I had enough pride left to stop being a victim. "I'll figure it out," I told the nurse. That afternoon I called a home care agency, spoke with a coordinator who explained their services. They could provide a professional caregiver, someone to help with daily tasks, medication management, physical therapy exercises. The price was $3,800 a month for full-time care. "I'll take it," I said. "When can someone start?" "We can have someone there the day you're discharged. Do you need help with the financial arrangements?" I almost laughed. Financial arrangements? I'd been sending my son $6,000 a month for 3 years. $216,000, just handed over like it meant nothing. I could afford $3,800 for someone who'd actually take care of me. "No," I said. "I can handle it." The caregiver's name was Martha Vasquez, 52, worked as a nurse for 20 years before transitioning to private care. Her resume showed experience with post-accident recovery, physical therapy assistance, medication management. She sounded professional on the phone, warm but not overly familiar. "Perfect. I'll be there when you need me, Mr. Curtis," she said. The next call was harder. I pulled up my banking app, fingers hovering over the screen. 3 years of automatic transfers. Every first of the month. $6,000 moving from my account to James's. The money I'd made from selling my business. The security I'd built through decades of work. Just flowing away because I'd been stupid enough to believe that generosity equaled love. I canceled the automatic transfer. Then I went into the settings and blocked any future transactions to James's account. It took less than 3 minutes to undo 3 years of enabling. My phone rang immediately. I declined the call. It rang again. Declined. Text messages started flooding in. "Dad, there's a problem with the transfer." "The money didn't come through." "Dad, call me." "This isn't funny. We have bills." I turned off notifications and set my phone face down on the hospital tray. Let them panic. Let them feel what it's like when someone you count on suddenly isn't there anymore. I thought about Jennifer's face in this room, the cold calculation in her eyes. The way she'd said, "Your vacation can't be more important than our recovery," like she was explaining something obvious to a child. No apology, no regret, just irritation that I'd had the audacity to get hit by a car during their vacation window. I thought about James standing there, silent, weak, letting his wife speak for both of them, the son I'd raised to stand up for what's right, to be loyal, to understand that family meant sacrifice. All those lessons, all those years, and he couldn't even tell his wife to shut her mouth and show some basic human decency. The phone kept buzzing against the tray. I could imagine them at home, at my old house, staring at their bank account in disbelief. Where was the money? This had to be a mistake. Dad would fix it. Dad always fixed everything. Not this time. Days passed in a blur of physical therapy, pain medication, and doctors checking my progress. The ribs would heal in 6 weeks. The leg needed 8 weeks minimum, possibly 12. The concussion symptoms were already improving. I'd be fine, the doctors assured me. Just needed time and proper care. Martha came to visit me 2 days before discharge, wanted to meet her client and discuss the care plan. Practical woman, no nonsense but kind. We talked about my apartment layout, what modifications might be needed, the physical therapy schedule. She asked about family support. "There isn't any," I said simply. She didn't press, just nodded. "Then we'll make sure you have everything you need." On the day of discharge, the nurse gave me my belongings and discharge paperwork. My phone showed 143 missed calls, 87 of them from Jennifer alone. The voicemails had progressed from confused to angry to desperate. I deleted them all without listening. Martha picked me up in her sedan, helped me into the passenger seat with practiced efficiency. As we pulled away from the hospital, I saw James's SUV in the parking lot, the $45,000 vehicle I'd bought them. He was probably inside, looking for me. "Too late." "Where to?" Martha asked. I gave her my apartment address in Paradise Valley. Not the house in Arcadia, not the place I'd given away. My home. As we drove through Phoenix traffic, sun blazing overhead, I felt something unfamiliar settling in my chest. Not anger exactly. Something colder, more focused. For 3 years I'd played the role of the generous father, the selfless provider. I'd let them take and take and take because I'd believed that's what family did. But they'd shown me their truth in that hospital room. They'd chosen vacation over crisis, comfort over compassion. They'd drawn the line, established the boundaries of their love, and those boundaries came with a price tag of $6,000 a month. Fine. Let them live with their choice. Martha glanced over at me. You okay, Mr. Curtis? I looked out the window at the familiar Phoenix streets, at the city where I'd built my business from nothing, where I'd raised my son, where I'd apparently learned nothing about the difference between generosity and being used. I'm better than okay, I said, and surprisingly, it was true. The next morning, I woke to the sound of my phone vibrating on the nightstand, still set to silent, still receiving calls I had no intention of answering. Through the bedroom window, Phoenix sunshine painted everything gold. Martha was already in the kitchen, coffee brewing, the smell drifting through my apartment. I checked the screen. 23 new calls overnight. 15 from James, 8 from Jennifer. Also, 3 emails and 12 text messages. The desperation was almost palpable through the digital screen. I deleted them all without reading and hobbled to the bathroom, using the walker Martha had set up. My reflection looked rough, gray stubble, shadows under my eyes, but something else too. Something harder, more alert, like I'd been sleepwalking for 3 years and finally woken up. "Coffee's ready when you are," Martha called from the kitchen. Over breakfast, she went through my medication schedule, physical therapy exercises, dietary recommendations. Professional, thorough, exactly what I was paying for. $3,800 a month, and she actually showed up. What a concept. "You have any plans for today?" she asked, clearing the plates. "Rest, mostly. Doctor's orders." She nodded, satisfied. What I didn't tell her was that I'd be resting while watching my bank account, very carefully. Watching to see exactly when James and Jennifer discovered their monthly allowance had permanently evaporated. The call came at 2:17 that afternoon. James. I let it ring. When it stopped, another call came immediately. Jennifer. I declined that one too. Then text messages started flooding in, one after another, the phone buzzing like an angry wasp. "Dad, please pick up. We need to talk about the money." There's been some kind of error with the transfer. This isn't funny anymore. Our bills are due. The house payment alone is $2,100. I almost laughed at that one. House payment? There was no mortgage on that house. I'd owned it outright when I signed it over to James. What they called a house payment was utilities, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, the cost of living in a $680,000 property they'd done nothing to earn. Martha noticed me staring at my phone. "Everything all right?" "Just family drama," I said. "Nothing I need to deal with right now." She accepted that without pressing. Good boundaries, that woman. Knew when to ask questions and when to mind her business. That evening, I pulled up my banking app and looked at the numbers. My business sale had netted me $2,100,000 after taxes. Over 3 years, I'd given James and Jennifer $216,000 in monthly payments, another $45,000 for their SUV, probably another $15,000 in various emergencies and unexpected expenses over the years. Call it $280,000 total. For what? So they could live like royalty while treating me like an ATM? So my son could stand silent while his wife dismissed my injuries as an inconvenience? The next morning, Jennifer showed up at my apartment. Martha answered the intercom. "I'm here to see Reuben," Jennifer's voice came through, sharp with barely controlled frustration. "Mr. Curtis is resting and not receiving visitors," Martha replied calmly. "I'm his daughter-in-law. This is family business." "Mr. Curtis gave specific instructions about visitors. I'm sorry." I listened from the living room, smiling despite the pain in my ribs. 3 years of financing her lifestyle, and now she couldn't even get past my door. "This is ridiculous," Jennifer's voice rose. "Reuben, I know you can hear me. We need to talk." Martha's response was measured, professional. "If you don't leave, I'll need to call building security." Silence. Then footsteps retreating down the hallway. I imagined Jennifer's face, that perfect makeup cracking with rage, the entitled fury of someone who'd always gotten what she wanted and suddenly found the well had run dry. Over the next few days, I watched their situation unravel from a comfortable distance. James sent an email, 6 paragraphs of apologies and excuses. Sorry for the Hawaii comment. Sorry they couldn't help with my recovery. Jennifer hadn't meant it the way it sounded. They were under so much stress. Could we please talk about the money situation? They had bills, responsibilities, Lindsay to think about. I read it twice, then deleted it without responding. The next email was from Jennifer, pretending to be concerned about my health. How was I healing? Was I comfortable? Did I need anything? Oh, and by the way, there seemed to be an issue with the monthly transfer. Could I look into that? Delete. Then James tried calling from an unknown number. I answered before realizing, heard his voice crack with relief. Dad! Thank goodness. I've been trying to reach you for days. I hung up. Blocked that number too. It was fascinating, really, watching them scramble. For 3 years, I'd been the reliable source, the endless fountain of financial support. Never questioned, never appreciated, just expected. Now that the fountain had shut off, they were like fish flopping on dry land, completely unprepared for the reality of supporting themselves. A week after I came home, Martha drove me to a follow-up appointment with my doctor. On the way back, we passed a grocery store parking lot. I saw Jennifer's car, the BMW sedan I'd helped them buy 2 years ago. She was loading bags into the trunk, designer sunglasses perched on her head, yoga outfit that probably cost $200. That's her, I said quietly. Martha glanced over. Your daughter-in-law? The one and only? Jennifer looked stressed, movements jerky and irritated. She slammed the trunk harder than necessary, climbed into the driver's seat, sat there for a moment with her hands on the wheel. Even from a distance, I could see the tension in her shoulders. Good. Want me to stop? Martha asked. No, keep driving. That night, Lindsay called. My granddaughter, the only one in that family worth a conversation. Grandpa, are you okay? Mom said you were in an accident. I'm fine, sweetheart. Healing up nicely. Can I come visit? I miss you. I hesitated. Lindsay was innocent in all this, caught between her parents' greed and my justified withdrawal. Let me talk to Martha about scheduling something. How are you doing? Okay, I guess. Mom and Dad have been fighting a lot, about money and stuff. Mom keeps saying it's your fault, but I don't understand why. My fault. Of course Jennifer would frame it that way. Poor Jennifer and James, victims of the cruel father who dared to stop funding their lifestyle. Don't worry about that, Lindsay. Adult stuff. Nothing for you to worry about. Okay, I love you, Grandpa. Love you too, sweetheart. After she hung up, I sat in the quiet apartment, thinking. James and Jennifer were panicking, scrambling, making mistakes. They'd canceled their Hawaii trip, losing the $4,200 deposit. Their bank account showed $1,240, nowhere near enough to cover their monthly expenses. The car payment alone was $680, insurance another $320, utilities, internet, phones, food, all the costs of the life they'd built on my dime. They were drowning, and I was watching from the shore with a life preserver I had absolutely no intention of throwing. Martha brought me evening medication and noticed my expression. You look almost happy. Just enjoying some peace and quiet, I said, but she was right. For the first time in years, I felt something close to satisfaction. Not happiness exactly, but the cold clarity of knowing I was done being used. Done being the silent financier of my own disrespect. James and Jennifer had made their choice in that hospital room. They'd chosen vacations over family, comfort over compassion. Now they could live with the consequences. And I was just getting started. 2 weeks into my recovery, my ribs still ached with every breath, but my mind had never been sharper. I'd spent the time thinking, planning, remembering. Every conversation with James over the past 3 years. Every interaction with Jennifer. The pattern was clear now, obvious in hindsight. They'd been managing me, manipulating me, keeping the money flowing with just enough contact to maintain the illusion of family. I needed professional help. Not a friend, not someone I could guilt or pressure. A real professional who understood the law and had no emotional stake in my family drama. Martha drove me to downtown Phoenix on a Wednesday morning. The building was glass and steel, 12 stories of law offices and financial consultants. The directory in the lobby showed Gerald Porter, attorney at law, on the 12th floor. Family law, estate planning, property disputes. I'd found him through an online search, read reviews from clients who praised his thoroughness and discretion. The elevator ride gave me time to organize my thoughts. I wasn't here for revenge, not exactly. I was here to protect myself, to establish boundaries, to make sure that when I did decide what to do with my estate, it would be my choice, not James and Jennifer's assumption. Porter's reception area was tasteful, quiet, leather chairs, expensive art on the walls, a receptionist who smiled professionally and offered coffee. I waited 15 minutes, then a door opened, and a man in his early 60s appeared. Tall, gray hair, suit that probably cost what I used to make in a week. "Mr. Curtis? Gerald Porter, please come in." His office had a view of the Phoenix skyline. He gestured to a chair across from his desk, waited until I was settled before taking his own seat. "Thank you for seeing me," I said. "Of course. Your message mentioned you needed advice regarding family property and estate planning." I told him everything. The house I'd signed over to James 3 years ago, the monthly payments totaling $216,000, the accident, the hospital, the choice they'd made, my decision to stop the money. I laid it out methodically, keeping emotion out of it, just facts and numbers. Porter took notes, occasionally asking clarifying questions. When I finished, he sat back, tapping his pen against his legal pad. "The house is in your son's name?" "Yes." "Full transfer of title 3 years ago." "And the monthly payments, were they documented as loans?" "No." "Gifts? I never asked for repayment." He nodded slowly. "That complicates things. Legally, the house is his. The money you gave him, those were gifts. You can't force him to return either." I'd expected that, still stung to hear it confirmed. "So I have no recourse?" "I didn't say that." Porter leaned forward. "You said you've been paying the property taxes, utilities, maintenance on the house?" "Every year, $6,800 in property taxes alone. Probably another $3,000 annually in various repairs and expenses they couldn't or wouldn't cover." "Do you have documentation?" "Bank statements, receipts, everything." Porter's expression shifted, became more interested. "That's different. You might have grounds for a constructive trust argument, or at minimum compensation for expenses paid on property you don't own. But honestly, Mr. Curtis, that route is expensive, time-consuming, and not guaranteed. Courts don't like to overturn legitimate property transfers, even when the circumstances are morally questionable. So what do you recommend?" He set down his pen. "You've already done the most important thing, stopping the financial flow. Now you need to protect your remaining assets. You said you sold your business for $2,100,000? "Yes." "After giving your son approximately $280,000 in various forms, you have roughly $1,820,000 left?" "Close enough." Porter pulled out a fresh legal pad. "Here's what I suggest. First, we establish a living trust. This protects your assets from probate, gives you complete control over distribution, and most importantly, it's revocable. You can change it anytime." "Why would I need to change it?" "Because situations evolve, Mr. Curtis. Maybe your son comes to his senses. Maybe you decide to forgive him. Maybe you want to provide for your granddaughter without her parents getting access. A trust gives you flexibility." I thought about Lindsay, 12 years old, innocent, caught in her parents' financial collapse. She deserved something, just not them. "What about my son?" Porter met my eyes. "What about him?" "It's your money, your assets, your decision. You can leave him everything, nothing, or anything in between. The trust makes your wishes legally binding." "Nothing," I said. "I want to leave him nothing." A slight pause. "Are you certain? In your current emotional state?" "I'm certain." My voice came out harder than intended. He made his choice. He chose a vacation over helping his injured father. His wife chose cocktails over compassion. They've received $280,000 from me in 3 years and couldn't spare 1 week when I needed them. I'm done." Porter nodded, professional mask back in place. "Then we'll structure the trust accordingly. I'd recommend leaving the bulk to charity, with a provision for your granddaughter in a restricted trust she can access at, say, 25. That way, even if her parents try to influence her, they can't touch the money." "Perfect." We spent the next hour going through details. The charity I wanted to support, a foundation for accident victims. The amount for Lindsay, 15% of my estate, in a trust she'd receive when she turned 25. The rest, 85%, to the charity. James and Jennifer would get exactly what they'd earned. Nothing. "This will take about a week to draft," Porter said. "Then we'll need you to come back to sign, have it notarized, make it official. The fee for this service is $8,500. I didn't hesitate. "That's fine." He walked me to the door, shook my hand. "Mr. Curtis, I've been doing this a long time. I've seen families torn apart over money, over property, over inheritance. What you're doing is protecting yourself. That's not cruel." "That's smart." Martha was waiting in the lobby. She helped me to the car, didn't ask questions. On the drive back to my apartment, I watched Phoenix scroll past the window. The city where I'd built my business, raised my son, apparently failed as a father in some fundamental way. But I hadn't failed. I'd been generous, supportive, loving. James and Jennifer had failed. They'd failed the basic test of family, being there when it mattered. Back home, I settled into my recliner with a heating pad for my ribs. My phone showed 6 new messages from James. I deleted them without reading. Whatever he wanted to say, whatever excuses or justifications he'd constructed, I didn't need to hear them. The paperwork would be ready in a week. 1 week until my new estate plan became official. 1 week until James and Jennifer discovered that their future inheritance had vanished like their monthly payments. I imagined their faces when they found out. The shock, the outrage, the desperate scrambling. Jennifer would blame James. James would blame me. Neither would accept responsibility for their own choices. Martha brought me lunch, noticed my slight smile. "Good meeting with the lawyer?" "Very productive," I said. She didn't press, just left me to eat in peace. Smart woman. Understood boundaries, respected privacy. Everything my family had failed to learn. That evening, my phone rang. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Reuben, please don't hang up." James's voice strained, desperate. "We need to talk." "About what?" "The money, the situation, everything. Can we please just meet? Have a conversation? I'll come to you, wherever you want." "No." "Dad, please. Jennifer and we made a mistake. We see that now. We should have been there for you. We're sorry." Sorry. Such a small word for such a massive betrayal. Sorry didn't erase choosing Hawaii over my hospital bed. Sorry didn't refund the $280,000 they'd spent like water. "You're sorry because the money stopped," I said, "not because you hurt me." "That's not true." "Goodbye, James." I hung up, blocked that number too. Outside my window, the Phoenix sunset painted the sky orange and purple. Beautiful, indifferent. The city didn't care about my family drama, my pain, my plans. It just kept existing, moving forward, same as always. I thought about my new estate plan, about the surprise waiting for James and Jennifer. They thought I was weak, then I'd eventually cave. That family obligation would override my pride. They didn't understand what they'd created in that hospital room. They'd wanted me to understand my place in their lives. Financier, not father. A TM, not family. Fine. I understood perfectly now, and understanding, I was realizing, was the first step toward making them understand something too. Actions have consequences, choices have costs, and the father they'd dismissed as a convenient source of income had more fight left than they'd ever imagined. The trust would be ready in a week. After that, well, we'd see how James and Jennifer handled discovering their inheritance had gone to strangers and their daughter. I smiled, settling deeper into my chair. My ribs hurt, my leg throbbed, but my conscience was clear. Let them panic. Let them scramble. Let them finally understand what it felt like when the person you counted on decided you weren't worth the effort. 3 weeks after my meeting with Porter, my physical recovery was progressing nicely. The ribs had stopped screaming with every breath, reduced to a dull ache. My leg was stronger, the walker replaced by a cane. Martha had me doing physical therapy exercises twice daily, building back muscle and mobility. My body was healing. James and Jennifer's situation, on the other hand, was deteriorating spectacularly. I knew this because Lindsay called me one afternoon, voice small and worried. "Grandpa, can we talk?" "Of course, sweetheart." "What's going on?" "Mom and Dad are fighting again. About money. Mom's really angry. She got a job and she hates it." I kept my voice neutral. "A job?" That's good, isn't it? I guess. She works at some boutique in Scottsdale. She comes home every night and complains about the customers, about having to stand all day, about how the other girls there are stupid. Then she and Dad fight about bills. I could picture it perfectly. Jennifer, who'd spent 3 years doing yoga and getting spa treatments on my dime, now forced to work retail, standing behind a counter, smiling at customers, dealing with returns and complaints. The indignity of it must be eating her alive. What does your dad say? Not much. He just looks tired all the time. They keep saying it's your fault that you abandoned us. But Grandpa, you were hurt. You needed help and they went on vacation. That's not right, is it? Smart kid. Too smart for her own good sometimes. Lindsay, this is between me and your parents. You don't need to worry about it. Can I come visit you? I miss working on the Mustang. Let me arrange something with Martha. We'll make it happen, okay? After we hung up, I sat with that information. Jennifer working retail for what? $2,600 a month? James's salary was $4,200. Together, maybe $6,800 before taxes. Call it $5,500 after. Their monthly expenses, based on the lifestyle I'd been funding, $2,100 for utilities and property taxes on the house, $680 for the SUV payment, $320 for insurance, $450 for groceries if they were being careful, $280 for phones and internet. That was about $3,800, leaving them maybe $1,700 for everything else. Gas, clothes, entertainment, emergencies, all the little things that add up. They were drowning, slowly, painfully, publicly drowning, and I was watching from shore, sipping coffee. The following weekend, Martha drove me to Encanto Park. Lindsay was waiting with James, who looked like he'd aged 5 years in 2 months. His suit was wrinkled, face drawn, dark circles under his eyes. He tried to smile when he saw me. Dad, thanks for meeting us. I nodded, let Martha help me to a bench near the playground. Lindsay ran over, hugged me carefully, mindful of my still healing ribs. James stood awkwardly nearby, hands in pockets. I'll give you two some time, James said, retreating toward the parking lot. Lindsay and I talked about school, about her friends, about everything except the elephant sitting on our bench. After 30 minutes, she ran off to play on the swings, and James reappeared. Can we talk? He asked. We're talking now. He sat down, keeping distance between us. I know you're angry. You have every right to be. What we did at the hospital, what Jennifer said, it was wrong. I should have stood up for you. Yes, I said, you should have. I'm asking you to consider, just consider, maybe we could work something out. Not the full amount, I know that's probably not realistic anymore, but maybe... No. Dad, please. We're barely making it. Jennifer's working retail and she's miserable. We borrowed $3,000 from my friend Mike just to cover April's bills. We're behind on everything. The property taxes are due in 3 months. $6,800, and we don't have it. I looked at him, really looked at him. My son, who I'd raised to be strong, independent, honest, now reduced to begging for money in a public park. Part of me wanted to feel sorry for him. The rest of me remembered lying in a hospital bed, every breath agony, listening to his wife prioritize margaritas over my recovery. Lindsay always welcomes a visit with her grandfather, I said. Do you have a problem with that? His face went from hopeful to confused to frustrated in 3 seconds. What? No, of course not. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about... I know what you're talking about, James. The answer is no. You made your choice. Live with it. I stood up, waved to Martha that I was ready to leave. James grabbed my arm, gently but desperately. Dad, please. We're family. I looked down at his hand on my arm, then met his eyes. Family shows up when it matters. Family doesn't choose vacation over crisis. You want to talk about family? Call me when you understand what that word actually means. I pulled free and walked toward Martha's car, leaning on my cane. Behind me I heard James say something, voice thick with frustration or maybe tears, but I didn't turn around. Lindsay waved goodbye, blissfully unaware of the tension. In the car, Martha glanced at me. That looked intense. Just family business, I said. She didn't press. We drove back to my apartment in comfortable silence. When we got there, a package was waiting outside my door, from Porter's office. I knew what it was before I opened it. The living trust documents. Final version ready for signing and notarization. I read through them carefully that evening. Everything was exactly as I'd specified. 85% of my estate to the Arizona Traffic Victims Foundation. 15% to Lindsay Marie Curtis, held in trust until her 25th birthday. James Matthew Curtis, nothing. The next morning, Porter's assistant came to my apartment with a mobile notary. We signed everything, got it witnessed and notarized, made it official. The assistant took copies for filing and registration. Mr. Porter wanted me to tell you that once this is registered, he can send copies to any parties you specify, she said. Send a copy to my son, I said, giving her James's address. Certified mail, signature required. She made a note. He'll receive it within 5 business days. After they left, I sat in my living room, holding my copy of the trust documents. Nearly $2 million in assets, carefully allocated to people and organizations that deserved them. A foundation helping accident victims. A granddaughter who'd inherit enough to start her adult life with security and opportunity. And James got nothing. Not because I was cruel, but because he'd earned nothing. 3 years of handouts, $280,000 in support, and when I'd needed him for 1 week, he'd chosen umbrella drinks. Actions have consequences. He was about to learn that lesson the hard way. The call came 11 days later, mid-morning. I was in my garage workspace, tinkering with the Mustang's carburetor. My phone rang, Jennifer's number. I let it go to voicemail. She called again immediately. Again voicemail. Third call, I answered. What? We need to meet. Her voice was tight, controlled, but I could hear the panic underneath. Family dinner? You, James, Lindsay, me? Please? Why? Because we need to talk, like adults, like family. There's been a misunderstanding and we need to clear the air. Misunderstanding. They'd received the trust documents. I'd been waiting for this. Where and when? Durant's. Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. Please, Reuben, for Lindsay's sake. Durant's was an upscale steakhouse in downtown Phoenix. Expensive, the kind of place Jennifer loved and could no longer afford on her boutique salary. Interesting choice. She was going for neutral territory, somewhere public where I couldn't make a scene. Fine, I'll be there. I hung up before she could say anything else. Smiled to myself. They thought they could manipulate me over dinner, maybe appeal to my emotions, guilt me back into funding their lifestyle. They had no idea what was coming. The next evening, Martha drove me to the restaurant. I dressed carefully, nice slacks, button-down shirt, sports jacket, looked respectable, dignified, everything a successful retired businessman should be. They were already seated when I arrived. James in a suit that needed pressing, Jennifer in a dress that was probably new, but looked cheap in this lighting. Lindsay was there too, coloring on a kid's menu, oblivious to the tension radiating from her parents. "Grandpa!" She hopped up, hugged me. I hugged her back, then let Martha help me into the booth, across from James and Jennifer. "Thank you for coming," Jennifer said, smile bright and fake as cubic zirconia. "We've missed you so much, haven't we, James?" James nodded, not meeting my eyes. "Yeah, Dad, it's good to see you." The waiter came, took drink orders. I asked for iced tea. James and Jennifer both ordered water. No wine, no cocktails. Couldn't afford it anymore, apparently. "How are you feeling?" Jennifer asked, still playing the concerned daughter-in-law role. "Your injuries, are they healing well?" "Fine." "That's wonderful. We were so worried about you. I know things got off to a rough start after your accident, and we felt terrible about that, haven't we, James?" Another nod from James. The man looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. Jennifer continued, smile never wavering. "The thing is, Reuben, we've had some time to think. About family, about what's important, and we realized that we made mistakes. Real mistakes. We should have been there for you. We should have canceled Hawaii. Should have helped with your recovery. We see that now." I sipped my tea, said nothing. "So we wanted to apologize, sincerely, and hope that maybe we could move forward, start fresh, be the family we should have been all along." The waiter returned. I ordered the ribeye, medium rare. Lindsay got chicken fingers. James and Jennifer both ordered the cheapest items on the menu, a house salad for Jennifer, pasta for James. Watching them economize was almost painful. After the waiter left, Jennifer leaned forward, dropping the cheerful act slightly. "Reuben, we got your letter. From your lawyer. The trust documents. There it was, the real reason for this dinner. Did you? That has to be a mistake. Some kind of error. You can't actually intend to leave James out of your estate entirely. I cut into my steak, took a bite. Perfect. No mistake. Her face went pale, smile finally cracking. That's not fair. We're your family. James is your son. You can't just cut him out because of one argument. One argument? I set down my knife and fork, looked at her directly. Is that what you call it? I was in a hospital bed with broken ribs, a concussion, and a damaged leg. I asked for help. You told me your vacation was more important. That wasn't an argument, Jennifer. That was a choice. James finally spoke up. Dad, please, can we talk about this reasonably? Maybe we could work something out, some kind of arrangement. Arrangement? I almost laughed. You mean like the arrangement where I gave you a $680,000 house? Or the arrangement where I sent you $6,000 every month for 3 years? Or the arrangement where I bought you a $45,000 SUV? Which arrangement are you referring to, James? Lindsay looked up from her coloring, sensing the tension. Jennifer put on a bright smile for her. Honey, why don't you go to the bathroom and wash your hands before dinner? After Lindsay left, Jennifer's mask dropped completely. Her voice went cold, sharp. This is about money. You're trying to manipulate us. I'm protecting my assets, I said calmly, something I should have done 3 years ago. We're not asking for everything, James said, desperation creeping into his voice. Just, maybe we could talk about some kind of support? We're struggling, Dad. Really struggling. Jennifer's working retail. We borrowed money from friends. We're behind on bills. The house alone. The house I gave you, I interrupted. The house that's in your name, that you own free and clear, that you could sell tomorrow if you needed to. It's our home, Jennifer said. Where we're raising your granddaughter. Then I suggest you figure out how to afford it, because I'm done subsidizing your lifestyle. I reached into my jacket pocket, pulled out a folded piece of paper, the trust summary Porter had prepared. I slid it across the table. This is how my estate will be distributed. 85% to the Arizona Traffic Victims Foundation, 15% to Lindsay, in a trust she'll receive when she turns 25, 0% to James. James picked up the paper with shaking hands, read it, went even paler than Jennifer. Dad, this can't be. $216,000, I said quietly. That's how much I gave you in monthly payments over 3 years, plus the house, plus the car, plus various emergencies and expenses. Call it $950,000 total. And when I needed you for 1 week, you chose cocktails. We made a mistake, Jennifer's voice rose, then dropped when nearby diners glanced over. One mistake, and you're punishing us forever? I'm not punishing you. I'm just not rewarding you anymore. There's a difference. I stood up, left 3 $20 bills on the table for my meal and Lindsay's. When Lindsay comes back, tell her Grandpa had to leave, but I'll call her soon. Enjoy your dinner. Martha was waiting outside. As we drove away, I looked back through the restaurant window. James had his head in his hands. Jennifer was staring at the trust summary, face twisted with rage and disbelief. They'd thought they could manipulate me, guilt me, appeal to my sense of family obligation. They hadn't understood that family goes both ways. That loyalty requires reciprocity, that you can't demand support from someone you abandoned when they needed you. In the car, Martha glanced at me. Went well? Better than expected, I said, and it was true. Watching Jennifer's perfect facade crack, seeing James's hands shake as he read that document, knowing they finally understood that their gravy train had permanently derailed. It was better than any medication for my healing ribs. They'd made their choice in that hospital room. Now they were living with the consequences, and I was just getting started. 2 weeks passed in relative peace. My physical therapy was going well, the cane now more precautionary than necessary. Martha had reduced her hours to part-time, coming 3 days a week instead of daily. I was regaining independence, rebuilding strength, and thoroughly enjoying the silence from James and Jennifer, until the certified letter arrived. It came from a law firm I didn't recognize, Feldman and Associates. I opened it at my kitchen table, Martha making lunch nearby. The letter was formal, cold, legal language that took me a moment to parse. Then I understood. James was petitioning the court to declare me mentally incompetent. I read it again, slower. They were claiming I'd suffered cognitive impairment from my concussion, that my decision to alter my estate plan was evidence of diminished capacity, that I required a guardian to manage my affairs. They'd attached a psychological evaluation from someone named Dr. Patricia Lansing, claiming I showed signs of confusion, memory loss, and poor judgment. I'd never met Dr. Patricia Lansing in my life. "Everything okay?" Martha asked, setting a sandwich in front of me. I showed her the letter. She read it, eyebrows rising. "Can they do this?" "Apparently they're trying." I called Porter immediately. He answered on the second ring. "Reuben, what can I do for you?" "I just received a petition claiming I'm mentally incompetent. From my son." A pause. "Forward it to me, now." I scanned and emailed it while still on the phone. Heard Porter's keyboard clicking as he opened the attachment. "This is garbage," he said flatly. "Have you ever met this doctor?" "Lansing?" "Never." "Then this evaluation is worthless. They're desperate, throwing anything at the wall to see what sticks. We'll need to respond formally, and we'll need our own medical evaluations. Real ones. Can you be available for appointments this week?" "Whatever it takes." "Good. I'll set up appointments with a neurologist, psychiatrist, and your primary care physician. We'll document your cognitive function thoroughly. In the meantime, don't engage with James or Jennifer at all. No calls, no meetings, nothing. Understood?" "Understood." After I hung up, I sat with the letter, reading it again. The audacity was almost impressive. They'd gone from begging for money to trying to have me declared incompetent. Jennifer's work, no question. This had her fingerprints all over it. The medical evaluations happened quickly. Porter had connections, got me appointments within 3 days. A neurologist put me through cognitive tests, memory assessments, problem-solving exercises. A psychiatrist did the same, plus emotional wellness screening. My primary care doctor reviewed my recovery, confirmed my concussion had healed completely. Every test came back the same. Perfectly normal cognitive function for a 67-year-old man. No signs of impairment, confusion, or diminished capacity. Porter filed our response with the court, along with all 3 medical evaluations. He also filed a counter petition for malicious prosecution and requested they reimburse my legal costs, which were adding up fast. $12,000 so far. The court date was set for mid-July. Until then, all I could do was wait and watch James and Jennifer dig themselves deeper. 2 days before the hearing, they showed up at my apartment. I was in the garage, working on the Mustang's transmission, when Martha buzzed the intercom. "Mr. Curtis, your son and daughter-in-law are here. They're insisting on seeing you." I wiped my hands on a rag. "Let them in." 15 minutes, no more. Martha met them at the door, made it clear they had limited time. I stayed in the living room, standing, not offering them seats. James looked worse than at the restaurant. Thinner, dark circles under his eyes, suit rumpled. Jennifer was immaculate as always, but her expression was pure ice. "Dad, we need to talk," James started. "You have 12 minutes left." Jennifer stepped forward. "This lawsuit, it's not what you think. We're trying to help you." I laughed, couldn't help it. "Help me? By declaring me incompetent?" "You're making irrational decisions," she said, "cutting your son out of your will, refusing to help your own family. These aren't the actions of someone thinking clearly." "No," I said calmly. "These are the actions of someone who learned his family only valued him as a bank account, who learned that when he was hurt and needed help, that family chose vacation over compassion." James flinched. Jennifer kept going, voice rising slightly. "We made a mistake. We admitted that. But what you're doing is cruel, vindictive. You're destroying your relationship with your son, with your granddaughter." "Don't," I said, voice dropping to something colder. "Don't you dare bring Lindsay into this. She's innocent. She calls me, wants to visit, actually cares. You two? You're here because you want money. That's all you've ever wanted." "That's not fair," James tried. "Fair?" I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, showed them the screen. "Here's fair. $216,000 in monthly payments over 3 years. Here's fair. A $680,000 house I signed over to you. Here's fair. $45,000 for a car. Here's fair. Me lying in a hospital bed with broken ribs, and you choosing Hawaiian cocktails. The silence was sharp enough to cut. When you needed help getting established, I gave you everything, I continued. When I needed help recovering from an accident, you gave me nothing. So yes, I changed my will. Yes, I stopped the payments. And yes, I'm perfectly sane and competent to make those decisions. Jennifer's mask cracked completely. This lawsuit is happening whether you like it or not. We have evidence. We have a doctor's evaluation. You have a fraudulent evaluation from a doctor I've never met, I said. I have 3 legitimate evaluations from board-certified specialists, confirming I'm perfectly healthy. So please, Jennifer, take this to court. I'm looking forward to it. Her face went white, then red. James grabbed her arm before she could say whatever was building behind her clenched jaw. We should go, he muttered. You have 2 minutes left, I said. But yes, you should go. At the door, James turned back. Dad, I'm sorry. I really am. But we're desperate. We need help. Then get jobs. Budget. Sell the house if you have to. Figure it out like everyone else does, because I'm done being your solution to problems you created. They left. I watched from the window as they got into their SUV. No, wait, a different car. Older sedan. They'd sold the SUV. Good. Reality was setting in. Martha appeared beside me. You okay? Never better, I said, and I meant it, because in 3 days we'd be in court, and I'd get to watch James and Jennifer explain to a judge why they thought their perfectly healthy father was incompetent to manage his own affairs. The irony was delicious. They'd spent 3 years treating me like a mindless ATM. Now they were about to discover I'd never been sharper. The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights, a judge's bench that looked like it had seen better days. Porter sat beside me at one table, reviewing notes. Across the aisle, James and Jennifer sat with their lawyer, a younger man who looked uncomfortable with the whole situation. The judge entered. Everyone stood. Judge Patricia Morrison, mid-50s, no-nonsense expression. She sat, gestured for everyone else to sit, opened the file in front of her. This is a petition for guardianship based on alleged mental incapacity, she said, looking at James's lawyer. Counselor, present your case. The lawyer stood, cleared his throat. Your Honor, we're seeking to establish guardianship for Mr. Reuben Curtis on the grounds that he's suffering cognitive impairment following a serious car accident. We have documentation from Dr. Patricia Lansing indicating... Your Honor, Porter interrupted, standing, before we proceed, I need to establish something. Mr. Curtis, have you ever met Dr. Patricia Lansing? No. Have you ever been contacted by Dr. Lansing for evaluation? No. Porter turned to the judge. Your Honor, the petitioners have submitted a psychological evaluation of a man the psychologist has never met. This is not only medically fraudulent, it's potentially criminal. The judge's expression shifted. She looked at James's lawyer. Is this accurate? The lawyer's face went pale. He leaned over, whispered urgently with Jennifer. She whispered back, face tight. He straightened. Your Honor, we were provided this evaluation by Dr. Lansing, who is a friend of Mrs. Curtis. She was operating on information provided by the family. So she evaluated him based on hearsay? The judge's voice went sharp. Without ever examining the patient? She was trying to help. That's not how medical evaluations work, counselor. Do you have any legitimate evidence of cognitive impairment? Silence. James stared at the table. Jennifer's jaw was clenched so tight I thought her teeth might crack. Porter stood again. Your Honor, we have 3 independent medical evaluations, all conducted within the past 2 weeks. Neurology, psychiatry, and primary care. All conclude that Mr. Curtis has no cognitive impairment whatsoever. He's fully competent to manage his own affairs. He submitted the documents. The judge read them, taking her time. When she looked up, her expression was decidedly unfavorable toward James's table. Mr. Curtis, she said, looking at me, can you tell me why your son believes you're incompetent? I stood. Your Honor, I recently changed my estate plan. Previously, my son was the primary beneficiary. I altered it to leave most of my estate to charity, with a trust for my granddaughter. My son is unhappy with this decision. And why did you make this change? Because when I was hospitalized after the accident, my son and his wife refused to help with my recovery. They chose to go on vacation instead. I decided then that I wanted my assets to go to people and organizations that actually valued me. The judge looked at James and Jennifer. Is this accurate? James's lawyer started to stand, but the judge waved him down. I'm asking your clients directly. Mr. Curtis, did you refuse to help your father after his accident? James stood slowly. We had a vacation planned, Your Honor. We couldn't cancel. You couldn't cancel a vacation to help your injured father? It was already paid for, so you chose money over your father's well-being. The judge's voice could have frozen water. And now you're here claiming he's incompetent because he chose to stop giving you money? Jennifer stood up, ignoring her lawyer's restraining hand. Your Honor, this isn't about money. It's about my father-in-law making decisions that aren't in his best interest. Not in his best interest? I couldn't help it. The words came out before I could stop them. Your Honor, over 3 years I gave them $216,000 in monthly payments, a $680,000 house, and a $45,000 vehicle. When I needed help recovering from broken ribs, a concussion, and a damaged leg, they told me their vacation was more important. How is protecting myself from that not in my best interest? The judge held up her hand. Everyone sit down. We sat. She reviewed the documents again, then looked at James's lawyer. This petition is denied. Mr. Curtis is clearly competent. Furthermore, I'm ordering the petitioners to reimburse Mr. Curtis's legal costs in defending against this frivolous lawsuit. $12,000, payable within 60 days. The lawyer tried one more time. Your Honor, if we could just... We're done, Counselor. This was a waste of the court's time and a transparent attempt to manipulate an estate plan through legal coercion. Your clients are lucky I'm not referring this to the state bar for filing a fraudulent medical document. The gavel came down, case dismissed. Porter shook my hand. Well done. Across the aisle, Jennifer was on her feet, face contorted with rage. She grabbed James's arm, said something I couldn't hear but could definitely read on her lips. They stormed out, their lawyer trailing behind, looking relieved to be done with them. In the parking lot, Porter walked me to Martha's car. They'll have to pay the $12,000 within 60 days. If they don't, we can pursue collection, which means liens, garnishment, all the legal tools available. They don't have $12,000, I said. I know. That's what makes this particularly satisfying. I got in the car. Martha started the engine. My phone began buzzing before we'd even left the parking lot. Jennifer. I declined the call. It rang again immediately. Declined. Again. Declined. By the time we got back to my apartment, I had 87 missed calls, all from Jennifer. I listened to the voicemails, watching the progression from barely controlled anger to complete fury. We need to talk about this. Call me. This isn't over, Reuben. We're not done. You think you've won? You think you can just destroy your family and walk away? You're going to regret this. You're going to regret all of this. You vindictive old... I deleted them all and saved copies to a secure folder. Documentation. You never knew when you might need it. That evening, sitting in my living room with a heating pad on my still occasionally aching ribs, I reflected on the day. James and Jennifer had tried to have me declared incompetent, had submitted fraudulent medical evidence, had made fools of themselves in court, and now they owed me $12,000 they didn't have. The house of cards they'd built on my money was collapsing, and I was watching every moment of it with the satisfaction of a man who'd finally stopped being a doormat. My phone buzzed. Lindsay. Grandpa, Mom and Dad are fighting again. Really bad this time. Are you safe, sweetheart? Yeah, I'm in my room. But Grandpa, Mom is saying really mean things. About you. That's between your mom and me. Don't worry about it. She said you're going to be sorry. What does that mean? I looked out my window at the Phoenix sunset, thinking about Jennifer's rage, James's desperation, and the $12,000 they now owed me. It means your mom is very angry right now, but she'll calm down. Everything will be okay. I hoped that was true. But looking at those 87 missed calls, listening to Jennifer's voice progress from controlled to unhinged, I had a feeling this wasn't over. The difference was, this time, I was ready for whatever came next. The weeks that followed the court hearing were quieter than I expected. No calls from James or Jennifer, No surprise visits, just silence, which somehow felt more ominous than their previous harassment. Porter kept me updated. They hadn't paid the $12,000. The 60-day deadline was approaching, and their financial situation was apparently deteriorating rapidly. Through legal channels, Porter had learned they'd accumulated additional debts, trying to maintain their lifestyle. Credit cards, personal loans, borrowed money from friends. The total was nearing $28,000. "They're drowning," Porter said during one of our phone calls, "and they're making it worse by refusing to adjust." I thought about that. James and Jennifer, so accustomed to living on my money, couldn't accept their new reality. They kept spending, kept borrowing, kept hoping I'd cave and restore their allowance. They hadn't learned a thing. Early autumn brought news through Lindsay. She called one afternoon, voice small and worried. "Grandpa? Mom and Dad sold the car? The nice one. Now we have this old Toyota, and Mom hates it. She says it's embarrassing." "How are you doing, sweetheart?" "I'm okay. But Mom got fired from her job. She yelled at a customer, and the manager fired her right there. Now she's home all the time, and she's really angry." I kept my voice calm. "And your dad?" "He asked his boss for more money, but they said no. He's been looking really tired. They fight every night about bills." "Grandpa, is it true that you're not giving them money anymore?" "Yes, that's true." "Mom says it's your fault they're struggling, but Dad said something different the other day. He said it's his fault for taking advantage of you." They had a big fight about that. Interesting. James was starting to understand. Maybe there was hope for him after all. "Lindsay, none of this is your fault, okay? Your parents are working through some adult problems. You just focus on school and being 12 years old." "Okay, Grandpa. Can I come visit soon? I miss the Mustang." "Soon, I promise." 2 weeks later, Porter called with news. They've defaulted on the property taxes. $6,800 due last month, unpaid. The county has started the delinquency process. "How long until they lose the house?" "If they don't pay within 90 days, the county can initiate foreclosure proceedings. We could potentially purchase the tax lien, which would give us leverage, but—" "No," I said immediately. "I don't want the house. Let the county handle it." "Are you sure? This could be—" "I'm sure. This isn't about the house, Gerald. It never was." What I wanted was for James to understand that actions have consequences, that you can't build a life on someone else's generosity and then abandon them when they need help. The house was just a symbol of everything that had gone wrong between us. 3 days later, James called. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Dad," his voice sounded hollow. "Can we meet? Please. Just you and me." "Where?" "Anywhere you want. I just need to talk to you." We met at a coffee shop in Scottsdale, neutral territory. Martha drove me, waited outside. James was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth, looking like he'd aged a decade since the court hearing. His suit was wrinkled, face gaunt, hands shaking slightly as he held his coffee cup. I sat down across from him, said nothing. Let him start. "I'm selling the house," he said quietly. "Jennifer filed for divorce 2 days ago. She took Lindsay, has temporary custody. Says she didn't sign up for poverty." He laughed, a bitter sound. "She's right. She signed up for your money, not for me." "James—" "No, let me finish." He looked up, met my eyes. "You were right. About everything. We used you. I used you. Took your money, took your house, took your generosity. And when you needed us, we chose a vacation. I chose a vacation over my father lying in a hospital bed." Silence. In the background, the coffee shop's ambient noise continued, oblivious to the reckoning happening in this corner booth. "I don't know when it happened," James continued. "When I stopped being your son and started being Jennifer's accessory. When I stopped working for things and started expecting them. But somewhere along the way, I lost myself, and I lost you. Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I need you to know I understand. What you did, cutting us off, changing the will, all of it, you were right. We deserved it. I deserved it." He paused, swallowed hard. "I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just needed to tell you that I finally get it." I studied my son, saw the exhaustion, the genuine remorse, the broken pride. This was the lesson he'd needed to learn. That respect can't be bought. that love requires reciprocity, that being family means showing up when it matters. What are you going to do? Sell the house, pay off the debts, start over. I've got about 31,000 in debts total between the court costs, property taxes, and everything else. The house should sell for around 665,000. After debts, I'll have enough to buy a small apartment and save the rest. Actually live within my means for once. And Lindsay? His face crumpled slightly. Jennifer has temporary custody. But I'm fighting for joint. I want to be part of my daughter's life, even if I couldn't be part of yours. I sipped my coffee, thinking. James had hit rock bottom. The question was whether he'd actually learned from it, or was just performing remorse to get back in my good graces. I'm not changing the will, I said. Not yet. Maybe not ever. You need to prove that this change is real, not just temporary. I understand. But Lindsay shouldn't suffer for her parents' mistakes. I'll make arrangements with my lawyer to help with her expenses. Education fund? Things like that. Not through you or Jennifer. Directly to her benefit. James nodded, tears in his eyes. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just be a better father to her than you were a son to me. That's all I want. I stood up to leave. James stood too, extended his hand. I looked at it for a moment, then shook it. Not forgiveness, not yet, but acknowledgement, a first step. As Martha drove me home, I thought about Jennifer. She'd left James, taken Lindsay, run from the consequences of her own choices. She'd never learn. But James, maybe, just maybe, he was finally growing up. The house sold 3 weeks later for $665,000. James paid his debts, bought a modest 2-bedroom apartment for $180,000, and put the rest in savings. $453,800, money he actually owned, earned through the sale of property I'd given him, now his responsibility to manage. I heard through Lindsay that Jennifer was living with her mother, working part-time at a nail salon, bitter about how her life had turned out. She'd married James for the lifestyle I provided, and when that disappeared, so did she. Predictable. James, surprisingly, was doing better. He'd thrown himself into work, finally showing the kind of initiative he should have demonstrated years ago. His boss noticed, gave him a raise, $5,100 a month now. Not extravagant, but enough to support himself and share custody of Lindsay. On a cool October afternoon, my doorbell rang. Martha answered, came back with a surprised expression. It's James, and Lindsay's with him. I'd been working on the Mustang in the garage. I came out, wiping my hands on a rag. James stood in my living room, Lindsay beside him, both looking nervous. Grandpa, Lindsay ran to me, hugged me carefully. I missed you so much. Missed you too, sweetheart. I looked at James over her head. This is unexpected. James cleared his throat. I wanted to bring Lindsay by, and I wanted to say something. He paused, gathering courage. Dad, I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking you to change the will. I don't deserve any of that. I just want to say that you were right about everything. I was a greedy fool who valued comfort over character, who took advantage of your generosity and threw it back in your face when you needed me most. Lindsay looked between us, understanding more than a 12-year-old probably should. I've been thinking about what you said at the coffee shop, James continued. About being a better father to Lindsay than I was a son to you. That's what I'm trying to do now. Work hard, live within my means, be present for my daughter. Not because I'm hoping you'll reward me, but because it's who I should have been all along. I studied him. He'd lost weight, gained some dignity. The expensive clothes were gone, replaced by something simpler, more honest. He looked tired but determined, like a man who'd finally stopped running from responsibility. Lindsay, I said, why don't you go to the garage? The Mustang's out there, and there's a new wrench set you can look at. She lit up, ran off. Once she was gone, I turned back to James. You hurt me, I said quietly, not just by choosing vacation over helping me, but by treating me like a resource instead of a father, by letting Jennifer dictate our relationship, by being too weak to stand up for what was right. I know, but you're here now. You're trying. That counts for something. James's eyes welled up. I don't expect you to forgive me. Good, because I haven't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I paused. But I'm willing to see if you've actually changed. We can start with weekly dinners, you, me, and Lindsay. No money talk, no favors asked. Just family time. Can you handle that? Yes, yes, I can. And James, if you ever make Lindsay feel like she's less important than money or status or anything else, you'll answer to me. Understood? Understood. We stood there, father and son, with years of damage between us, and maybe, just maybe, a thin thread of possibility connecting us again. Now go get Lindsay, I said. Show me you remember how to change spark plugs. I know I taught you once. The afternoon passed, working on the Mustang together. James's hands remembering skills he'd learned decades ago. Lindsay asking questions and handing us tools. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't resolution. But it was a start. After they left, Martha found me in the garage, still tinkering with the engine. She brought coffee, leaned against the workbench. That was nice, she said. Them visiting? It was. You think he's really changed? I don't know. Time will tell. I took a sip of coffee. But he's trying. That's more than I expected 6 months ago. Martha smiled. You're a good man, Reuben Curtis. I'm a man who stopped letting people walk all over him. There's a difference. I turned back to the Mustang, this 1967 beauty I'd been restoring for 3 years. All this time, I'd been fixing this car while my relationship with my son fell apart. Now the car was nearly done, and my relationship with James was getting its first real repair work in years. I adjusted the carburetor one more time, checked the connections, then climbed into the driver's seat, turned the key. The engine caught immediately, roared to life with that perfect, throaty sound that only a classic V8 can make. Powerful, clean, exactly right. Martha laughed from the doorway. You finally got it running! I finally got a lot of things running, I said, climbing out, unable to keep the smile off my face. I stood there in my garage, listening to that perfect engine, and thought about the past months. The accident, the betrayal, the decision to stop being a victim, the legal battles, the financial pressure, watching James and Jennifer's carefully constructed life collapse under the weight of their own choices. Jennifer was gone, bitter and unchanged. James was broke, but maybe, finally, becoming a man. And I was here, healthy, independent, with my self-respect intact, and a classic Mustang that ran like a dream. You know, Martha, I said, sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone. It's about letting them see exactly what they threw away and making sure they understand they'll never get it back on the old terms. She raised her coffee mug in salute. To justice, then. To justice, I agreed. The Mustang idled perfectly, that beautiful rumble filling the garage. I'd rebuilt this engine from nothing, piece by piece, with patience and skill. Maybe I could rebuild my relationship with James the same way, different than before. Better boundaries, clearer expectations, earned rather than given. Or maybe not. Maybe James would slip back into old habits, and I'd have to walk away permanently. But at least now, I'd know I gave him a real chance to prove he'd changed. Either way, I was done being taken advantage of, done letting people treat me like an ATM with a pulse, done sacrificing my dignity for people who didn't value it. I'd learned my lesson. The question was whether James had learned his. Time, as always, would tell. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.